Hi, today we're going to talk about accessioning artifacts and what it means to be moving something into our collection. Obviously, this is a really important topic as we're getting ready to move our collection over 16,000 artifacts. That we want to make sure any items that have been in progress or waiting to come into the collection are properly labeled and packed before we move, because we don't want anything to get damaged or, worst of all, lost from its origin story. So, as a demonstration today, I have a guest star. This is Crocheted Abraham Lincoln, who normally lives on my boss's desk, and he's going to be helping us walk through the steps of how an artifact, well, how an object becomes an artifact in our collection. So, first and most important thing for Abe to have is his temporary custody form. So this is the donation form that comes in with all of our artifacts, and it covers important information such as who donated the artifact, how can we contact them to get all of our follow-up done, what's the significance of the item, how many items are we dealing with, and an important bit of legalese at the bottom that says, yes, you do in fact need to donate this to the museum. So obviously before entering the collection, Abe would need to get his owner's signature at the bottom here. If I have multiple items stolen from my boss's desk, such as this lovely tee for Tacoma print, I could have multiple items listed off here, but to keep things simple, we're just going to focus on Abe for today. We need to know what goes with this artifact. So we have brief description, Crocheted Abraham Lincoln. Very hard to mistake. And then, of course, we'll talk about the significance that he lives in the THS director's office and he was acquired at a local craft show circa 2019. If we had additional information, such as the name of the crafter who made him, this would also be a place to write it down to make sure that we don't lose that, because we want to know as much as possible for future research or exhibit, which are the main purposes that our artifacts get to put to. So I think we're ready to go, Abe? Now that artifact has come in, one of the first things we're going to need to do is assign an accession number to the donation. So in this case, year 2026, 32nd set of artifacts to come in. Abe would then, as an individual item, get the number 2026 32-1. Our friendly print here, if it was in the donation, would also then become item number 2. And those are unique identifier items that will help us keep track of the objects, where they are, and where all the information on them is going to be stored. All of this information is going to need to be entered into our computer database. We like to use Past Perfect. There's a variety of different database programs available for keeping track of museum artifacts. Once these all been entered in the database, we're going to take that unique number he's been assigned, write it down on a tag. Different artifacts are going to have different ways that they get labeled, but the important thing is that all our information about the artifact is attached to the same number as the artifact itself. So it's going to show up in things like our big location listing, so we know which box Abe's in, which folder all of his paperwork's in, and where he physically is at any time, whether it's on exhibit, out for a research visit, or in his storage box. So with a nice cloth item like him, we don't have the option of, say, writing directly on him in pencil the way you would with, say, a piece of paper. Sometimes with cloth objects like this, we'll actually sew a label on. In his case, we're going to have a little tag label, and we have a few options here. We could tie a little tag here around his neck, which would be the least invasive option, and I think what we're going to go for. If we can't get that secure enough, I could actually use this needle here and just put the thread, not really stitch it down, but just put the thread around an existing stitch just to make sure that we have a nice secure place to tie it on. And at that point, I probably have 8 other things that are stacked up here that will also need to be accessioned, so I better get back to work on those. Thank you for joining us today.